If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 266 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz. A little bit tired and groggy from a very long but unbelievable weekend. Thanks for joining us this evening as we are going to be recapping / reviewing a fantastic weekend of racing and stories and many other great things on Belmont Stakes Festival weekend. Please make sure you subscribe on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Hit the notification bell so you know when new content will arise. And also smash that like button. We'd greatly appreciate it. Our viewership has been awesome, really for quite a long time. We had almost over 5,000 views for last Thursday night's preview, where we gave out plenty of winners and good ideas. We'll be talking about that as we recap our picks. You can follow me on Twitter at HKravitz, and also scrolling at the bottom of the screen, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com is my email. We've got live shows Wednesday night, Bettin, Boozin, 9 o'clock. The boys will be talking about a great sequence this weekend. Also, quick NBA finals, and also betting the U.S. Open. U.S. Open golf this week. And we have two of our three fantastic hosts and co-hosts on Bettin, Boozin, Patrick and Kyle. Know golf like a glove. I'm sure they're going to have some great ideas on how you can win some money betting the U.S. Open golf this weekend as well. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. Power picks were great once again this week. Look below the video player for information on that. And we've got a website that you might want to check out with some new updated information that Pete Visco has done for us, hhhracingpodcast.com. All right, without further ado, let me bring on, we have three co-hosts joining us tonight. We have someone from Bettin Boozin joining us for a very special reason. First of all, from the East Coast of Maryland, we got Mr. Pete Visco from Bettin and Boozin, who had an incredible time in New York, which he's going to talk about, plus a great score that he tipped out last Wednesday. Mr. Patrick Kunzel, and should we start singing, guys? The birthday boy, the man himself, Mr. Paul Halloran. Guys, how are we doing tonight?
Happy birthday, Paul.
Happy birthday, Paul.
Gonna make this Pete quick. It's past my bedtime at this age, Pete. We gotta make it quick.
I mean, at this point, you know, this is way past. It's basically Tuesday for you, right? I mean, at this point.
Paul, what did you text me? 60 is the new 70, I think is what you texted me.
Yeah,
Right?
60 is the old 70 or something like that. Yeah. No, everything's good. I'm feeling great. As you said, I was a little tired. Patrick kept us on the move this weekend. He's much younger than us.
He did. Patrick had a great time. We got a lot of people. You can see in the chat for yourself. I'm not going to bring on everyone's comments here, but a lot of happy birthdays from Paul, Michael Austin here, Tom Espinoza, Ross Blacker. That is true, Ross. That is absolutely true. We'll talk about that on Thursday's show. This show is definitely not about, well, the show is never about me, but definitely not tonight. But I am going to be at Canterbury live as an analyst next week in front of all of YouTube world and anyone else that watches Canterbury. So I'm very excited about that. Matthew Chimura is here. Anyway, we got a lot of people. Really appreciate everyone listening and watching. Patrick, I know you got a busy night tonight. You just got off of work watching the New York Giants, of course, prepare for their Super Bowl run next year. For those people who don't know, Patrick has a connection with the New York Giants and does some work for them. Giants football team, as they'd like to say. Patrick, let's get to you first, and then we're going to let you go. We're going to talk to Patrick here for about 10 minutes at the most. Patrick, you had the pleasure of being at Belmont Stakes Festival weekend. I know it was an experience that you'll probably never forget because for many reasons, one of which is you got a behind the scenes look for the first time, at how a barn works, or a handle stable. I don't want to put any words in your mouth. Let's first talk about the overall experience, who you met for the first time, any stars, people that you have seen on TV for, several years and you got to meet in person or see up close.
Yeah, no, a lot to count on one hand. Just seeing like the major trainers, meeting Christophe Clement, seeing Todd Pletcher up close, Bob Baffert up close. It was just incredible. And then, like you said, going behind the scenes, at the barn of Ray Handles, and just seeing all the horses and how the operations run on a daily basis and how technical everything is. Like I never would have thought it was like that. And it was just incredible. Then being able to go see the workouts was just awesome to see. And, just all the little details of horse racing and seeing the behind the scenes was truly incredible.
We spent a whole morning at Ray Handel's barn. I mean, it doesn't really matter whether it's Ray Handel, who had 2 wins, by the way, yesterday, or other trainers. What was your impression? Did anything surprise you? I mean, there's a lot of hustle and bustle. There's horses walking the shed row. There's some babies that are a little bit restless. And I mean, it's quite an incredible operation behind the scenes, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, it definitely is. I mean, what impressed me the most was, seeing the board of like when the horse is working out and stuff like that and what they've done with the horse and when the horse has to work out and, if the horse is running that day, just, like the different things. It's just, yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, and hats off to Matt Cutera and Adelphi Racing, who took care of Patrick and myself with. How were those seats, Patrick? Did those do for you?
Yeah, maybe a little too far past the finish line, but I'm not complaining. No, no, they were great.
No, the whole experience was just amazing. And Patrick, I'd be remiss if I didn't give you a little kudos, because the Bettin and Boozin guys always do a great job on Wednesday nights. For those of you that haven't watched Bettin and Boozin, we got 3 young guys who are up and comers in this game from a handicapping perspective. You should check them out. Patrick, we got to talk about one particular horse right now that you tipped out. And I'm going to bring it up here on the screen in just a second. And what a great tip out this was. Your best score of the weekend, and it was Friday in the New York Stakes. Patrick tipped out Market Segmentation, Jose Ortiz, 6-1. Just stole the show there, beating Warlike Goddess, who was a heavy favorite, and Didia, an up-and-coming Argentine bred. Patrick, as I show the back half of this race, what brought you, if you can remember, to Market Segmentation to upset the field in the New York on Friday?
Yeah, I really liked Market Segmentation's last race in the Big A Stakes. It just was really impressive and actually came from off the pace in that race. And then, just showed tactical speed, and which made me believe that this horse could be on or near the lead in this race. And there was not a lot of speed. And, like we talk about with, the different Chad Brown horses when he's got multiple in the race, I just thought that at the odds of what this horse was going to be, and went off at 6-1. I'm pretty sure morning line was 8-1, so it got bet down a little bit. I just really liked the horse, and I was a little skeptical on Warlike Goddess coming in.
Well, your thoughts when, I mean, you couldn't have been happier at this point. She got a half in 50-1. We're about to see a 3/4, I think, in 1:15 and change. The irony about this entire race, Patrick, is we watched how many 24 races together this weekend. This is the only race, literally the only race, that we were not sitting next to each other. As I was visiting with Paul, who was in another room with his buddies, which is a whole other story we'll get to. So I don't know, maybe we should never watch races together again. And we did add some scores later on. But your thoughts as I let it roll here from this point through the stretch? You had to be ecstatic at this point.
Yeah, they ran 24 and change for the first, and then at the half, when I saw it was 50-2, I was getting very comfortable. And even 3/4 was like 1:15-1, I think, and it was
it's
just
on the screen at the top there. Yeah, 1:15-1. Yeah, exactly. Now, right here, I mean, Warlike Goddess is way back here. I suppose you thought Didia was probably your main threat right here, the 3.
Yeah, no, I did. And when they got right into the stretch, and Jose, shakes up Market Segmentation a little bit, and that burst kicked in, I knew I was pretty good. And I was sitting next to Ray Handel, and he kept telling me I was home, so I was definitely happy.
Although right about here, I was getting a little bit interesting. And Didier ran a blinder, as they say in Europe. Patrick, I think this is definitely a horse to watch going forward for sure.
Oh yeah, Didier ran huge,
but not big enough. And the wire got there in time. And here's Warlike Goddess running, by the way, her worst buyer in 2.5 years with a 91. So that was quite, shocking there. But Market Segmentation, Patrick, apparently going to the Diana to face another Chad Brown horse who some people might know. You want to tell everyone who that might be?
In Italian.
Supposedly in Italians go in there, Pete and Paul, with market segmentation. So maybe in Italian over market segmentation, exacta is in the works. But anyway, Patrick, really appreciate you coming on. Any other final thoughts? Anything from the weekend that you scored on, or anything that just really impressed you about the weekend? The weather ended up being great. There was no air quality issues whatsoever. It was a pretty big crowd on Saturday for sure. Anything else just impressed you, or anything else you want to say?
No, I'd just say, getting to meet Paul for the first time was great. Dinners were awesome. And, meeting the Dormans was awesome. And that whole story behind it, I mean, that's just incredible. I know you guys will talk about it more and stuff like that, so I'm not going to elaborate too much. But yeah, just meeting all different people within the horse racing industry, and the races were great.
Yeah, no, everything was great. By the way, Jeff Amster once, I wouldn't know this. Maybe you got East Coast guys would know that. Apparently the bathrooms are better than they were at Shea Stadium. So I've never been to Shea, but apparently Shea was a dump, right, guys?
The bathrooms in Ukraine are better than they were.
Patrick, you've been to Shea Stadium, I'm assuming, in your life at some point?
I have not. That's actually too old for me. I'm a City Field person.
Okay, much better place. Well, Patrick, I know you're going to be joining everyone on the screen. For those of you at home, everyone on the screen, plus Kyle Roscoe. So 5 of the 6 HHH Racing podcast crew is going to be at Saratoga in a month and a half for Whitney weekend. Patrick, you thought this weekend was something. Wait till Saratoga, baby.
Yeah, Pete, rest up. I got to tell you, just please rest up, because I think I'll be okay. I think I can outlast Paul at this age. I mean, I'm surprised.
Without question.
I don't even know if he'll make the Whitney at this point. I mean, we're gonna have to give him.
I have extra motivation,
That's
Pete,
true.
because of a story that I read last night.
We'll do a couple shots or something right before to pep you up.
There we go. Well, Patrick, we'll let you go, man. I know you had a long day. Appreciate you coming on, and I just want to say to everyone out there, this weekend was the second time that I was able to meet Patrick in person. He's a terrific guy. Don't want to embarrass you, Patrick, but mature young man. So happy to see you again in person. Look forward to seeing you again at Saratoga, and keep crushing those 6-1s, man. That's how you do it. Great job.
I'll try. Thanks for having me on, guys. Have a good
day,
day.
Patrick.
See you, Patrick.
Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, Patrick Hunzel, guys, did a fantastic job. Really class act. Look forward to being with him again. Please watch Bettin and Boozin, 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays, with Kyle Roscoe hosting, and of course Charlie Freeman as well. Okay, we got to get to this, guys. Next up on the agenda here, let me just show this again for those of you that have been not watching the local news lately. Mr. Paul Halloran, first of all, from everyone here at the HHH Racing Podcast, man, happy birthday. We love you. Big 60. I don't even know where to begin, but I was trying to think of how I sort of start this. We're all blessed in many ways. Paul, you are blessed for the most important reasons, because of family and friends, of course, and the most important things. But there is something pretty important of all of our lives, especially you and I, and that's horse racing. And Paul, if you were your horse racing karma right now, if your horse racing karma was a baseball team, you'd be about 35 games over 500 and shutting out every damn team. Let's talk about this, Pete. First of all, the guy wins the Grade 1 Gamble as a rookie, just out of nowhere, boom, in April, right? Then this weekend, he's with the Cody's Wish crew, and Cody's Wish is turned into the best horse in training, without a doubt. Is a complete freak, unbelievable. He's on national TV. Of course, we know Paul. He's always hungry for attention. He's very selfish. We all know. Totally just kidding. Paul's on national TV. Everyone's talking about that, right? And then, Pete, if that's not all enough, and he has a good betting weekend too, by the way, which he'll never talk about because he's too modest to even say it, but I'll say it. And then, Pete, on our show on Thursday, and I've got this I thought I had it queued up. I guess I don't. Okay. On our show on Thursday, he tips out Arcangelo and Jenna Antonucci, and he went through the whole field like, why not Jenna Antonucci? He was a great New York trainer. Not only, Paul, the first female trainer to win the Belmont, but the first female trainer to win the Triple Crown, a Triple Crown event, and tips that horse out at 7-1. Paul, man, you are living the dream right now, sir.
You forgot Memorial Day weekend when the two horses my wife and I owned very small pieces of, one on the same card at Belmont. So that was also good. But yeah, you know what, Howard, we went through it last week. You know, I had reasons to not be impressed by the other horses, but I will tell you, in doing a little research for a column I wrote today, you know, and how Jenna beat the big four of Asmussen, Baffert, Cox, and Pletcher. They have combined, three of them are Hall of Famers, and Brad Cox will be. They have combined for 16 Eclipse Awards, 28 wins in Triple Crown races, and 21,000 wins overall. And here's Jenna with her 161 career wins and 2 graded stakes, neither a grade 1, upsets the apple cart. So, you know, it's more so than a win. You know, everyone's talking about she's the first female, which, you know, appropriately on the 30th anniversary of Julie Crone becoming the first female jockey to win the Belmont, and the 50th anniversary of Secretariat, owned by trailblazing woman Penny Chenery. So that's important. But I think more than that, it's just a victory for the little guy or the little gal, as I put in my column, or even the medium guys. You know, guys like Ray Handel and Tom Morley have to be thrilled about this. You know, they're shoulder to shoulder on the backstretch every morning, and you know, it's widely thought if you give a good trainer the right horse, you're going to get the results. And I always talk about Buff Bradley, my friend Buff Bradley, winning back-to-back Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare sprints with Groupie Doll. You know, winning, running second in Dubai with Brass Hat. So that was really gratifying to see, and I just think it couldn't be any better for the game. She was live on Fox News this morning. You know, Fox having the broadcast on Big Fox was great. I don't know how it was technically, Pete. I'm sure you watched it. I haven't watched it yet, but even if they were lacking a little technical stuff, that platform, there's no downside to having it on that platform, and NBC as well. Either of those, but yeah. So good for Jenna and good for racing.
No, we're going to get to the Belmont in detail here in a little bit towards the end of the show. But yeah, Jenna Antonucci actually retweeted out the Fox interview. She was great, and her emotions. I don't know if anyone has seen the video of her watching the race, and I had a few people say, Howard, why isn't she watching the track? Because Belmont's huge, guys. I mean,
you can't see
really
it.
Can't pick up. Someone tweeted, how did Cody's wish, you know, how impressive was in person was that Cody wished turn of foot on the far turn? I'm like, I have no freaking idea. It was like half a mile away. I mean, who the hell knows? I'm watching it on TV, but it sure looked damn good. You know, it's hard to pick up the horses. It's such a big track. But anyway, Fox, the only major issue, you didn't watch that on Fox, huh?
I mute it. I don't like to listen to people talk too much, so I just watch the races. But everything if you look at Twitter, which is always so positive and optimistic, they didn't have the greatest things to say about the broadcast. But I agree with Paul. Some of that doesn't matter. It's more the fact of, let's be on a channel where somebody can find it pretty easily, as opposed to, you know, when they put them on some of the side channels that people don't go to as naturally, and just having the broader audience. And even I heard Jonathan Kinchin on a podcast last week, and he was talking about just the fact that when they're on FS1, just the sort of the money that goes into the sets and the production and all the things, and everything just looks better on everything. In theory should look better on the bigger station, because you're working with more money and you're working with more resources and more people too, like more behind the scenes folks. So all of that, it can't do anything but help. Plus we had great racing for people to watch, which is, you know, when that happens, it sort of doubles it up.
Well, I think they signed a 7-year deal, Pete. So they're going to be on Big Fox.
Yeah.
Anyone who thinks that's a negative is crazy. Now,
I mean, they have to tighten up their broadcast, get the right people on, but that's, you know, I don't think you tune out because of that, because that's where it is. It's not, I mean, you can't watch it. Plus, for the New York races, you can't watch. It's not like you can go to TVG. Obviously, you could watch like on your ADW or wherever, but it's not like you have a true alternative, at least for Belmont.
Yeah, the major problem I saw just watching, I don't know if they piped in. I don't know about I don't think they brought in fake sound. The mics were too hot. That's the terminology they use in the broadcasting business. The mics were too loud. They were too hot. They were trying to, you know, bring everyone into the game, and I get it, but it was too loud and it was a little bit hard to hear the call of Durkin and other. But they had an ancillary second channel where it was like more America's Day at the Races on a normal weekend that I'm sure was better. Anyway, I don't really want to talk about the Fox broadcast, but I'm glad it was on a big network, Pete. We need that coverage. And I'm sure it's going to get better for sure. We're going to really quickly go through Friday, guys, and then I want to go spend a little more time on Saturday. I'm not going to show a lot at all. I just want to just talk briefly. Friday, I selfishly did not do well at all. I'll just readily admit. I don't do well when chalks are winning all the time, especially like soft chalks that I don't like, which was sort of the theme of the weekend. It seemed there were some heavy chalks that won, which were expected, like on Friday, guys in Italian and Siskany, who were expected to win. And then there's some soft chalks that also that won that weren't selfishly good for me. But Paul, I know you had a good day. Pete, I'm not sure about you. Let's talk about, if you want to mention anything about Italian and Siskany, great. Also, Warlike Goddess losing, we just saw that, and Pretty Mischievous winning the Acorn. Any of those 4 horses you guys wanted to touch on quickly?
I mean, I love an Italian, so just from the fact that she's just great. I mean, you don't have to say a ton. She gets on the lead, and it's pretty hard to pass her. So hopefully she's in for another huge year, and then we'll see what she can do when the Euro. I mean, she got run down by Tuesday in the Breeders' Cup, but Tuesday was awesome, and she still ran her race, and she always runs her race. And if you let her go on the lead, most of the time, the horses here in this country are in trouble.
Is she getting into I'm sorry to say this for people that were fans of this horse, is she starting to get into the Tuppen territory? I mean, she is really good.
I mean, she's pretty close. I mean, I don't really know what. There's not a ton left, although you need that, getting the Breeders' Cup win. If she can get that this year, you sort of need that maybe to cement your legacy, I guess, for lack of a better word, a little bit more. So, if she can go on and have like an undefeated season into the Breeders' Cup or something, that would be fantastic. Paul, I know you like that horse too. So.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, if she's going to get race flow like she did at Keeneland and Friday, Pegasus isn't going to beat her.
Well, nobody goes after her. I mean, they don't go after her at all.
Yeah, I mean, and now again, she's only doing what she has to do. But watching that those fractions come up on Friday, it was like the race was over after a quarter mile. But she is tough. We'll see what happens if someone pushes her early. But the thing is, if you go out and push her early, you're probably not going to win either.
That's true.
She may not win, but you're probably not going to win either.
That's true.
Siskany continues the dominance of the Belmont Gold Cup. I mean, 2 miles, guys, it's going to win by a Euro, if anyone. And Siskany's a pretty good long-winded Euro over there. So, I mean, that was no fluke.
The field was the field looked a little soft, but that was the only thing. I didn't think there was not that takes anything away from the win. I just didn't love that much. When you looked at it, you're like, man, it's going to be hard to beat this horse. I couldn't. You had to make something up, I thought, to beat that horse.
Was it half the field was coming from hurdle races, Pete?
I didn't even. Yeah, I mean, yeah. If you threw a couple of hedges up, maybe it would have been a different story. But other than that, I'm not really sure.
You guys want to touch anything more on the market? Warlike Goddess, I was completely wrong. I mean, I thought she could lose, and I highly doubted it. But Paul, we talked about it. She was awful, and I don't know if this is the beginning of the end for her in terms of her racing career. Maybe that's overthinking it. But we all know, guys, when these mares start going bad, they can go bad. She's 6. She's a bet against me until she proves that last race was a fluke. I mean, she never looked like a winner at any point and barely passed horses clunking up to the end, Paul. That was bad.
Yeah, I mean, I used her. We talk about this a lot. I did not like her, but I did use her as an A just in case because, if I had a 20-1 C win somewhere down the line, I didn't want to get knocked out by her. I thought, you and I talked about this. You thought she was underbet. I thought she was overbet. First of all, she started out with the fact that it was the wrong distance. She's a straight 1.5 mile horse. This was 1.25 miles. So she's up against it to start with. Didn't look like there was going to be all that much pace. And the way it turned out, there was no pace. Hence market segmentation. I was all in on Didier. The way I'm looking at the PPs, I think with the Moonlight would have been very difficult to beat if he had not scratched because he would have been sitting pretty much right on top of that. She.
It's your birthday. It's your birthday. You can say all the bad genders you want just for one day.
I thought what I got is look at 10 for 15 lifetime. I know I'm getting old and senile, but in that race at that distance with that race flow, she was no odds on in my book.
But you know what? She's won again. I mean, but she wasn't even like. I saw people like, oh, another bad ride from Joelle. Listen, if the horse lost by like a half a length, you can make that argument. She never picked up her feet. I mean, so I don't know what happened. She's won into close and into slow paces before. So anyway, congrats to Market Segmentation and Patrick Kunzel for tipping out that horse. A great story for them winning a grade one. Unbelievable. Last race on Friday, we'll just mention them. We'll get into Saturday races in more particular. Pretty Mischievous. Clearly the 3-year-old filly champion as of right now, the Oaks winner. I'll tell you what, Darth Vader ran a blinder on the inside, and I mentioned I don't know if I mentioned it was to Paul, I think I mentioned to Kyle Roscoe off air or during his show. George Weaver took over the training of this horse and was purposely working Darth Vader behind horses, and they were trying to teach this horse to rate. And I told Kyle that this is an A for me, and a very interesting horse as a long shot, and that was one of the opinions that was very good for me, as I had the exact on Friday. But Pretty Mischievous wins again, but again not overly impressive. And Pete, these horses like Scylla, who's a really talented 3-year-old for Cox filly, I just think at the end of the year, someone that we haven't heard of or someone who's not established is going to be, sort of the 3-year-old filly to talk about, because this crop still doesn't impress me.
Yeah, I guess that's the expectation, but we just can't take away what she's done so far. I mean, she threw in one little, well, we're going to call it a clunker, because she should have got the lead and then South Lawn overtook her pretty easily. So it looked like, she's overrated. She's not that good. It was a pretty crappy buyer. But really, that's the only thing she's done that hasn't been fantastic. Everything else she's done has been great. It just hasn't been stupendous. It's been better than everyone else in the class. So, but again, it's a weaker class. But if you're the 3-year-old filly champion because you're the best in a weak class, it doesn't mean you get a smaller Eclipse Award or anything. You still get still the same size. So I think
they should make it small. That's interesting.
I mean, that would be funny. Yeah,
that would be
funny.
She's pretty tough. She's I'm sold.
The Godolphin boys are wow.
Well, what's interesting about that, I spoke to Michael Banahan after that race, and remember, they still have Wet Paint. And, while Wet Paint didn't run great in the Oaks, wasn't the greatest race flow, and she's coming back this weekend.
This week, right, Paul? Yeah.
This weekend, but they don't be surprised if Pretty Mischievous gets cut back even further. They're talking about, they believe that she's fast enough and tactical enough to be cut back, and if you want to keep her apart from Wet Paint at Saratoga, then that would be the way to go. But the other thing about that race, she lost, Pete, and we've seen it now in the 2 races she wins. She gets to the lead and waits on horses, even with the blinkers. The blinkers have helped that. She did it in the Oaks. It looked like Gamble Girl. Gamble Girl wasn't going to catch her if she took off again. And in this race on Friday, Darth Vader was not catching her, but it appears, she does wait on horses, which means, she might be more effective, making that move in a 7 furlong race, like the Test, for example, where she just kind of makes the one move and, takes the lead shortly before the wire and it's over. But they, I believe, based on what Michael told me, that they are thinking seriously about perhaps cutting her back even further than the mile and a 16th of the Acorn.
Well, in all honesty, if you're thinking like Breeders' Cup, she's not beating Clairiere or Search Results or any of those horses. So if you're thinking Breeders' Cup, maybe that's the way to go. Maybe you go back to the filly and mare sprint, because I don't see her winning. She'd have to really keep improving to beat that quality. The quality.
But I'll tell you, Tyler Gaffleone, he really rides her well. He is really on a roll with her. Those last 2 rides were very good.
Well, and Hernandez was on in the loss too, which was funny. So it wasn't Gaffleone in the loss. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but
yeah, she's tough. She's tough.
Yeah.
Guys, let's get on to Saturday, and we'll show a few quick replays again. We're not going to be going more than an hour tonight, and just really some of these races we'll touch on very briefly. Others we'll talk slightly longer. You're going to see stuff come up on the screen. Guys, any thoughts real quick on the True North? Elite Power is just the best sprinter in the country right now by far. Anarchist for O'Neill, California, ran a big race. Strobe, pretty disappointing third, at least in my opinion. Just couldn't compete against Elite Power, who's going to be pointed to the major races, guys, at Saratoga this summer, the sprint races.
Yeah, Elite Power is awesome. I mean, Paul
Yeah,
and I have
I
been riding that. We've been riding that one for a while now, huh, Paul?
Yeah, I wouldn't get too down on Strobe, Howard. I think he ran okay. I mean, he lost to the best sprinter in the country. I think he may not be a top grade one horse, but that horse is going to win a stakes sooner rather than later.
Did regress to a 91. I got a feeling 6.5 is a little bit long for this horse.
It could be.
I think it should keep him at 6.
Yep. That could be. Yep.
Picky. But Elite Power is just really consistent and very good. I mean,
honestly, I don't know if you guys hit this exact. I didn't. The thing that pissed me off the most is how do you not play Anarchist something? If you're looking for a little bit of a price, the horse is 5 for 9 in second going into, with second place finishes, and then just does it again. Sometimes horses just have a knack for finishing second for whatever reason. And you're getting this one at 12 in a race that looked to be relatively not bettable in too many ways, unless you wanted to crush the Elite Power Strobe exacted, which was paying nothing. So you look. I was so pissed after.
I tipped out 4-5-3 on the show, so I had the top 3, but I just didn't see Anarchist beating Strobe. But he ran well, and Strobe didn't run very well. Really regressed there. So not too much to say there about that race. That was extremely impressive. The poker guys. Big upset here. Big upset. And my thought here was I had the right idea, guys. We talked about Philo Darian on the show. That was my price play that I tipped out on the tip sheet. And he ran huge. And he took them a long way. Chez Pierre, I'm not a bounce guy, but boy, if you are a bounce guy, this would be the poster boy for bounce races, because Chez Pierre had no excuses. Although, Paul, we were watching this together. I think you have a little bit of a pet peeve with the ride into a slow pace. Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I think he ran not well, but it did look like he wanted to go early, and sometimes I think if a horse is that determined to go, let him go and see what happens. Now, could have got hooked up with the 7, and maybe Emmanuel would have won anyway. Maybe Anaconda, who I liked, could have made the one run, but he got beat on the square. No real excuse. Looked like once he got between horses deep in the stretch, kind of shied away a little. Just did not move forward from the 16th pole home. And those who were against him, I feel badly for Patrick. Patrick needed him to complete the pick 5, but those who were against. There's no. I mean, some ran well, as you said, Howard. But at 1-2, you're supposed to win this race if you're the one, right?
Yeah, Pete, I played a pretty big exacta 7-1, or excuse me, 1-7, as we talked about in the show. I thought right here, I mean, they were clunking up, so I wasn't sure, but I mean, you've got a 1-7 exacta. You got to feel pretty good at this point. Chez Pierre's got overrun by Emmanuel, who I've not been a big fan of recently. Maybe the turn back did really well for Emmanuel. I got a feeling we're going to see him in the Breeders' Cup Mile. I'm not saying he's going to win that race, but I think the turn back was big for Emmanuel.
It's funny. I read my notes after, and I didn't have Emmanuel, and I was reading my notes, and I'm like, everything in my notes were right. I just didn't use the analysis correctly, because I was looking at it going, this horse is just better going 8.5 and down. So if you look at every race that he's had that's 8.5 and down, they were just a lot better than when he goes longer. And then he's better at grade 3. He loses when he's in the grade 1s. He doesn't run well at all at the grade 3 level. And then you look at the last one, you go, well, he lost at a grade 3, but it was 1 1/8 miles. So you figure the distance is what got him, not the company. So when I looked at that, I go, man, I had everything right. I just didn't pick the horse like an idiot. So that one actually bugged me that I didn't. I think
we'll see Chez Pierre like 4-star Dave, and I will be. If that horse like drifts to like 5-2 or 3-1, I'll be all over that horse. Again, this is a yin yang game. I'm not saying they don't fire back all the time, but shape here was too impressive at Keeneland. That couldn't have been just a fluke. I mean, he's run some big races before, so I don't know. We'll see. Maybe a more aggressive ride. Maybe just take that horse to the top, right, in the correct situation. And by the way, Casa Creed is point of the 4-star Dave as well. So Saratoga, as usual, is going to be absolutely unbelievable.
Howard, let me say this about the poker. If there are any Euro trainers out there, they will not be shying away from buying a plane ticket to send their horse over to run against those horses.
Our other than up to the mark, our turf horses are just sorry, they're just not. And excuse me, and in Italian. Other than those two, our turf horse just really aren't anything special. Tip of the cap to Pete Visco, who next up is winning the Brooklyn. Pete, great call. You have the source. Got up. Boy, I hope you went to the bank on this one, Pete. You liked him?
Nope.
Okay, well, it was
another screw up. My Saturday was good handicapping, bad wagering. So
all right, well, we've all been there before for sure.
I had this, this trifecta cold picked, by the way. I had it cold and didn't hit the triple, didn't have the winner. I wound up, the only thing I hit was a nice double between Next and Clariere. That was the only thing.
Like great handicapping. I'm sure some people at home, if you scored on with Pete's picks there with Next and Calibrate and Red.
I had the top three on there, and so hopefully somebody followed that.
Kyle was along. You and Kyle had quite the betting day, at least through our or a handicapping day, at least at the least through our text chain. But very briefly, Next went to lead, like you said. I was shocked that Bright Future didn't show speed. I don't know. I mean, he was awful, obviously, in this race. So, and he was the second choice. Next was the third choice. I thought when Bright Future didn't go out there, Pete, I knew I was in trouble personally. Although Red Run, who Paul and I loved, got a dream trip. And Paul, I'm just going to show the very end. Well, I'll let you talk about Next, but you guys can talk through the end of this replay. Red Run was a good spot. Just when they quickened Paul, he just couldn't go with them. He needed more pace in front that he never got. In Calibrate, a horse I talked about, for Jamie Ness and Ruben Silvera, ran a huge race. I regret that I didn't put that horse, guys, underneath in my back wheel, a reverse key try, because I had a feeling that horse would run. Instead, I did stuff with Red Run. And I didn't have the try because I didn't have Next on top. So I screwed that up. But as we show the replay here, just the stretch run, Pete, I'm assuming you felt really good, really all along. And there was never a doubt in your mind. No one really challenged. When Warrant came up to him, I mean, I was not a fan of Warrant, and he just brushed away Warrant, who's a decent horse, although I was against him in this race.
Yeah, but I mean, he's good enough to win if he gets that kind of trip, and he just Next. The thing I liked about Next, and we talked about on the show, was, and I think it maybe what pushed his price up a little bit, was his last race wasn't that great, but if you look at his PPs, he doesn't run well first off the layoff. He runs well second off, and he did exactly that. I mean, he brushed Warren away, and nobody. I mean, look at how he opens up, which is pretty strong. I mean, the fractions were advantageous for sure. He had his own way most of the time, but hey, that's what you have to do. And you're still going a mile and a half. You're still getting chased by a bunch of good horses. So he was really impressive, and I really like that horse.
Yeah, he's fun at these long. He's a fun horse. I don't know where they go next. I mean, they're going to stick to these.
Yeah, they just run against each other.
Breeders' Cup Classic threat or anything, but he'll make some money for some people, and I think Red Run Paul will continue to improve just the pace and setup for him at all. I mean, so we'll see. I don't think there's much else to talk about there, guys. This next race to me, other than the Belmont and Cody's Wish, you can make the argument that this next race was the race of the weekend from an excitement standpoint. This was a big race for me that didn't work out because I really liked search results. We talked about it many times. Pete, your girl Clariere is such a warrior, man. Just unbelievable.
Love her.
And search results really had no excuses. The fractions were slower. This would have been a big score for me in those 2-day doubles, in a win bet, and just a few other things selfishly. But, as we watch the replay here, first of all, the Raylu on the 42 to 1 shot, guys. This talk about the underlay. Excuse me, the underlay of the weekend. This 3 should be literally 500 to 1. The fact, I don't know who bet this horse down to like 42 to 1 is absolutely insane.
It's
But
not even
anyway,
like a good name that people would identify with. I don't really know what you would.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if Steve paid, and I'm not saying this in any nefarious way, but paid Raylu to do this because like to set up for Clariere. But I mean, I guess if you're on a bomb, you might as well do it.
I like what Raylu did. I mean, this is your only shot. Give it. What the hell? You're in the race. Let's give it a shot. What are you going to do? Sit in fifth and run? I mean, you're not You're not out closing some of these horses. So you figure, hey, what the heck? Let me get on the top and see what happens.
Paul, right here, I was relatively quiet all weekend. I'm not a big yeller or screamer when I watch races, to be honest. But right here, I literally yelled at the screen to Flavian, who was on search. I think it was Flavian on search results. I said, "Get to the outside," because I didn't want him to be stuck in behind the 3, right? And sure enough, he did exactly that, and he followed Play Hard. Play Hard went a little bit wide. The fractions were slow. Pete, I should really talk to you. What were your thoughts at this point? I mean, Clariere was not nearly as far back as normal, but it was a slow pace, and she was a bit in between. I'm guessing you're just very confident even still right here, I would assume.
Well, you're always worried when Joel's on your horse that something might go wrong. But, well, here, because you're looking at it going, they're
getting away a little bit from her.
They're getting away, and that's what I thought. And I know Search was, and this is another one where in my picks I had the top 3 cold. So I was like, hey, I like these are the second and third horses that I liked, and Clariere. But then right there, if you could see it, she gets the open room, and that's what you want. You just want her in the clear. And once she gets that, she can run down almost anybody.
I don't think this was talked enough, Paul. But this is Secret Oath right here. If she ran her race and kept Clariere from coming out and like was on her hip the whole time, Paul, I'm not sure Clariere gets there. I'm not saying Clariere didn't run a great race. I'm just simply saying that if Secret Oath had not run a big race along with Clariere, Paul, and like sort of stayed on her hip, I'm not sure Clariere would be able to get to the outside and run her down. So she was a very deserving winner. Clariere is just awesome. I mean, she's just better than search results just by a little bit, but she definitely is better. But Secret Oath not running right this spot, I thought did help a little bit with Clariere.
Yeah, I actually try to get clever and try to get Played Hard to run second, which I almost did, but I didn't because here comes Clariere. But man, I did not like Secret Oath even a little tiny bit in this
I was
race.
thinking of you, Paul, in that race because you called it. I thought Secret Oath would make an early would at least get in contention and then fade. Yeah. But you were right. You called it where she didn't even get into contention.
Over raced, and she makes these explosive bursts on turns, and it's a big sweeping turn at Belmont, which has been well documented. Just look how Played Hard ran there. Not bad, but not great. Couldn't beat Played Hard last time. Hey, look, she's earned $2.5 million. I'd love to own her. I'm not stupid. She's an arrogate, and God love the coach Wayne Lucas for running his horse. But that horse was in that field with horses like Clariere and search results. That horse was really up against it, in my opinion. I didn't, my opinion got me zero dinero, so I'm no genius. But, I'll tell you, watching Clariere is really fun. And you watch the way she runs, female, and it's route, not sprint or middle distance. But she does remind you a little bit of our guy Cody's Wish. And that, you might think that she's out of it. But as you said, Pete, once she's in the clear, you better have your running shoes on.
Yeah, she makes up ground.
Pick 5, Brian, no excuse for search results. Listen, I feel validated in my love for search results. She ran great. She just got beat by a better horse. I mean, it's plain and simple.
Hey, Howard, I've been there. I had her beaten by Malathaat 2 or 3 times. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, she just got beat.
She just needs to keep running until they all retire, and then she can take over.
Guys, we're going to move along a little bit here. Arabian Lion, I'm not going to show the replay. Got a perfect trip. He's getting really good. Guys, I think at the end of the year, we're going to say Arabian Lion is better than National Treasure. I just think he's more talented than National Treasure, and not because of what happened to National Treasure Saturday, which I fully expected anyway. He got a perfect trip, but he ran a huge race, guys, and I think they might stretch him out again. I know Baffert said they weren't thinking about, long term, but he's getting too good. I think he might be like one of those Haskell horses, guys. I really do.
I agree.
I would
Yeah.
go.
I
I'd go
agree.
the other way.
The old
I'd go
man,
the
we
other
kept
way.
him up, Pete, on
I
his
know. Look
birthday.
at
The old
him.
man's already.
Well, he's done. I mean,
He's done.
I'd go the other way. He could be. I think he could be a great sprinter. I think he could just be a very good distance horse. But he's not winning the Classic. That's the thing. Like he could win the mile though. If you're okay winning the Breeders' Cup Mile, then great.
Yeah. I don't. They might go to the H. Allen Jerkins, but it wouldn't surprise me if they go to the Jim Danny and see what he can do again. I don't know.
That
I don't think
sounds
they're going to give
logical.
up on long.
Yeah, no, that sounds logical. Yeah, for sure.
No, Howard, I think you hit the nail on the head. The Haskell is the perfect solution. It's more geared to speed. Baffert wins it all the time. I think that was. I would bet that's with this horse. I actually love this horse in this race, and I hate it when I love a Baffert. But you gotta do what you have to do. And I really liked Arabian Night in this spot. Would have been good, Howard, if your guy got up for second.
Gilmore. Gilmore ran a night.
Gilmore.
Little closer than I expected. A little closer. What'd you think,
He ran
Howard?
well.
A little closer? Gilmore?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, guys. I'm just trying to move things along here.
No, that's all right.
No, Gilmore. Well, I let me take this off the screen. I'm confusing people here. I tweeted it out, and it hurt the power picks because we put these power picks out, 24 hours in advance. The New York Central, is that the name of the rail horse, Pete? That scratched?
Yeah, New York something. Yeah,
New York Thunder.
New York Thunder scratched. The 6th horse, who was a fast horse, scratched. Fort
Bragg, the 8. Yeah, both of those hurt.
There were 3 scratches. 2 of them were big time speeds, and it didn't set up for Gilmore. And I put it out there. I said even the 7th string, who went to the lead and actually ran a decent race, federal case or something up, but no, just didn't stop. I thought Gilmore ran. Listen, I hit the try. He finished 3rd, but
I did too.
And he ran well, but with that pace scenario, there's just no way that Gilmore was going to win. I still think he's fascinating in a race where there's a lot of speed, and he's getting better. So he justified my opinion. But when you got big scratches like that, that changes the race.
Well, you got to take that into consideration. I think sometimes we forget that you don't look at how scratches change the complexion of the race. Sometimes I know I'm guilty of that.
Joel on Big Invasion, who was right here, Paul. We were big fans of this horse. He was bet down a little bit, and I thought he ran fantastic. I can't wait to look at the fractions, which I actually haven't looked at yet. But man, Caravel again. We talked about this, guys. We talked about this Thursday, and I said, everyone's trying to beat Caravel. I just don't think there's a ton of really speed. She's just too good right now. It's just that simple. As we watch the stretch run, either one of you can comment.
She is a tough cookie.
Yeah. I always try and beat her. I'm done with that. This race cost me a ton. This race cost me in all kind of bets because I had the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th placed horses in a bunch of stuff, and she's just too good.
Yeah.
And got the trip. And Joel didn't. I don't think he did Big Invasion any. I don't think he did him any good in this one. I thought
he rode him pretty well, Pete.
I thought he was a little too far.
Pete.
Yeah, no, definitely better than the last time. Yeah, I just think, like you said, there wasn't a ton of speed, so you had to sort of get into contention. I thought a little bit
closer,
earlier.
Though it's like you can't. I don't think you want to take him out of his game. I mean,
but he didn't need to be in 13th. Maybe he could have been in 9th.
How about
everyone
see this? How about 11 coming the final 8th and 11-2? I mean, that is absolutely flying. Actually, as I look at this, Yes and Yes actually came home faster, but whatever. Coming home in 11-2. I mean, so the horse, I thought Big Invasion, frankly, ran about as well as he can run. I just Caravel was just too good and just wasn't quite enough pace. But again, hats off to that horse. The big boy. Here we go. And we're not going to talk about the Manhattan too much, guys. I want to focus on Cody's Wish and the Belmont will end. Well, actually, let's just do this real quick. The Manhattan, there's not much to say, guys. Up to the Mark is the best American turf horse in training. I talked about Soldier Rising, thought he was a bit interesting. He was no threat to win. Did run a good second to mix up your tries. Clearly, guys, this Ottoman Fleet and the other one are not Applebee's best. And I expect him to come Breeders' Cup time, guys. He's going to come, or even these 3-year-old races at Saratoga, guys. I think Applebee's going to send some better horses from his
Applebee's not. I had put a stat in our stats of the day on the power picks. Applebee hasn't been as successful at Belmont for whatever reason. So
Yeah.
that was one thing. If you were looking to try and fade those two and come up with another horse underneath up to the mark, that might have been. I didn't do it. I needed Ottoman Fleet to have second to hit the try cold, or not cold, but I had Soldier Rising in third. So
Yeah. I don't know. Did I show Jim's happy birthday message? Jim Pilar's had a longer. Here we go. Jim Pilar's unexpected help up tonight, but glad I made it in time to probably wish my official old friend Paul a happy birthday. The countdown to that first Social Security check can now begin. Jim, thanks for the nice comment.
Jim's, by the way, Jim is right on my tail, Howard. He's gaining on me. I'm only about a neck in front of him. Don't worry about Jim. He's going to be right in the same starting gate in about 2 weeks.
Paul, I think it would be most appropriate, obviously, Pete. Well, we're going to take a step back for the next few minutes and let Paul just expound on the virtues of the best horse in training right now. I think most people agree. Cody's Wish, just the story keeps getting better and better. He was bottled up a little bit. It was a great call by Durkin, who mentioned that. And it was such a, Cody's Wish made such a quick run to the front that Durkin was a little late in picking up Cody's Wish. Paul, I'm just going to show about the half-mile pole going forward here as Cody's Wish wins the Met Mile just in as impressive a fashion can be over. Maybe not the most stellar group, but it was a relatively deep group. And you can see right here the hold, and then once he got to the outside.
Yeah, Junior has to pull back right there, Howard. He was going to try to go through, and he had to pull back. So he's eighth right now. He is eighth after a half mile of this race.
Paul, I swear on my parents' graves that at this point, Rehan was 2 inches in front of me. We were watching it together. I said, this race is over. I said, once he gets to the outside, I'm telling you, I said, Ray, watch this show. That's about to begin. And it's not really any kind of great handicapping opinion because we knew he was the best horse. But, once he got on the outside, Paul, oh my goodness. Take it home,
It's
Paul.
just the amount of ground he covers. Again, he's eighth after 6 furlongs and after eighth after 4 furlongs, first after 6 furlongs. So, this was not like this long, pronounced move. He is on top at the top of the stretch. It was really, it was something, and look, you could say it wasn't the greatest field. We talked about it on the show, and I went through all of them, and, they all had question marks, but they all had races who potentially could beat them. Dr. Shivel had speed. We won't go through it again. Charge It had the huge buyer in the Dwyer. Zandon is a hard knocker. Repo Rocks, who knows what's going on with him. It just didn't. And the rail. And you pointed out, Howard, that was very astute. He needed to get him outside. You did very good. And I talked to Junior after the race, and he said, I was trying to really not let them know when I was going to make my move outside. He said, look, I know riders are looking at me down on the inside, and let's face it, it's race riding. You got a 3 to 5 shot on the inside. If you can keep them there, you're going to keep them there. But Junior did a good job pulling them back at that juncture. You put it on, Howard, and once he got loose, he's on his game right now. It's a great story, but it's a great story because he is really, really a special horse. And he did try to bite me. I went to the barn to see him Friday. I just do want to report that I did. My first stop upon getting to Belmont was the backstretch, and I did go to visit him. And I didn't bring any mints. Apparently, he wasn't that happy about that, but he was frisky. And when I talked to Michael Banahan after the race, on Friday, they said, he was just so much fitter than he was going into the Churchill race off the 6-month layoff. And I'm like, geez, he ran pretty damn good in the Churchill race. So he's tough. And, I've been pushing for this, and it makes sense if you think about it. Mott has elite power. It makes sense to not run those two against each other. As Banahan points out, there's really no big race at 7 furlongs or a mile on dirt for Cody's Wish between now and the Forego. So what do? You say maybe he can get another 8 in the Whitney. It'd be a 2-month layoff, which is about perfect. And, David Grenning on the DRF had a story up last night with Mott saying pretty much not committed, but he said it would make sense to think like that. And boy, I think it makes a lot of sense, Howard. I would love to see him run in that race for very, very selfish reasons. So I believe at this point, everything stays healthy, God willing. I think we're going to see him in the Whitney, and that would be just great.
Did Michael Bonahan or Kelly Dorman at any time during that race, who you were literally feet away from, at any time during that race, do you feel like they were concerned that Cody wasn't going to win?
I was standing next to Kelly, not because I wanted to get on national TV, just because I felt like that was a good place to stand.
Sure.
And Danny Mulvihill was to his right. Danny is the guy who brought the 5-month-old Cody's Wish out of the stall the very first time. Michael Bannon and Dan Pride were not with us, but with him, you're always, look at there's 3.5 furlongs to go, and you're in second to last. I think you got to be concerned, don't you? But
it helps that it's his style too. So it wasn't like he's a horse who's usually close and then he got shuffled back. Yeah. So at least it helps that you're like, well, his kick is that's his bread and butter. So at least there you feel a little bit more comfortable. I mean, I was with you, Howard. I was like, it's over. I said, my wife, who doesn't listen when I'm watching the races, I was like, oh, this is over. And she ignores me, but I was like, yeah, same with you.
And Pete,
the fractions are honest enough. What's that, Pat? What's that, Howard?
I'm sorry.
Oh no, yeah. On our website. So if you go to the articles section, there's the article that Paul wrote about Cody's Wish specifically, and then there's the article from today, which was a little bit had Jenny Antonucci, Cody's Wish, Secretariat, a little bit of everything from the weekend. So if you go, they're all links to the This Is Horse Racing website, but if you could see them all in one place, you can link to them pretty easy. All great articles by Paul. Plus, there's a nice picture of Paul with his national TV appearance. There's a beautiful
my 3 seconds of fame, Pete.
Hey, honestly, Paul, I kept rewinding and fast forwarding and trying to pause so I can get a good picture. Yeah,
I was. Your wife should hang out with mine on the weekends, Pete. Yeah, I don't know what that means exactly. I'm going to stay away from that, but
I think it means that they don't care about our horse racing. Yeah,
I know.
Kelly was obviously emotional after the race. It's an emotional thing. He shows up at Belmont with Cody's lucky bow tie that a person in England made for him. Leslie saw it online and inquired, and it was the person makes them in green. And she emailed and told the story. Can I get it in blue? And the guy said, well, I don't make them in blue, but I'm going to make one for Cody. So he had the lucky bow tie, and there's a sign that he brought with him that was next to the stall. Win for me. I love you, from Cody Dorman. So, it's hard not to get emotional. The thing that impressed me, Howard, and I kept saying to Kelly, you guys are horse racing guys, so you can appreciate it. The majority of people watching that race don't know what it means to win the Met Mile that easily from that far back. The Met Mile, and you'll read it if you read in my story, Michael Bannahan, who runs Godolphin in the USA, said, I'd rather win it than the Derby. And even if you take that as a little poetic license, they want to win it at least as much as the Derby. It is an iconic American race. And to win it that easily from that far back, that's the thing that got me, is not that he won, because I think we all thought he was going to win, but to win by almost 4 lengths in that fashion was off the charts.
I can think of another horse that did that Godolphin owned. How about Frosted?
Frosted, yeah.
But,
Frosted was off the screen.
Hey, Howard, three comments up. You want to?
Oh yeah, I'll bring it up, Pete.
Put that one up. Yeah, put that
of
one
all
up.
the comments tonight that are there, Pete for sure wants me to show that one.
That one made me
Pete,
laugh.
I'll take care of you. Don't worry, buddy. I got you.
That one made me laugh.
We're going to be at Saratoga Whitney week, everyone. And Paul, we talked about this. We're going to try to do some kind of meet and greet, Pete. Like we're going to announce it out. And maybe like for an hour in the backyard, all of us will be out there. So pick 5, Brian, if you're going to be at Saratoga Whitney week, Whitney weekend, that's when we're going to be there. Ralph Conte correctly states that, Paul, you were on national TV. Howard was only on TVG, which, by the way, is national TV. It's just cable as opposed to whatever. Anyway, okay, we get the point, Ralph.
If you don't have cable, you could still see Paul. So if old school, if you still had a dial TV,
the point
like me and Paul
people that don't own cable boxes, that's like if you don't have a cell phone.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks, Ralph. No, you're exactly right, Ralph. Listen, props to Paul. It was awesome to see. All right, guys, the Belmont for about 10 minutes here, and then we'll get going here for the night. Paul predicted Arcangelo. Arcangelo wins. What a great story. I mean, wasn't my top choice, wasn't Pete's top choice. We thought he was interesting. We'll show this stretch run. I'll tell you what, I don't know who to give more kudos to. I guess Jenna Antonucci, number one, or the horse number one, Jenna two. But the ride heavier Castellano gave.
Tremendous.
What a year this guy's having, Pete. I mean, it's so cool. I love seeing these veteran guys like stick it to all the young guys or the media and say, look, I'm not done yet. Because after his injury last year, people are like, oh, he's old. I had a guy that sent me DM after DM like a year ago saying Javier's the worst rider. Like right now, he's awful. He can never win, blah, blah, blah. This guy is the Eclipse champion right now, like by far. I don't even think it's even close based on these two wins. And we're going to watch the replay. I mean, he never looked like a loser, really. He got a perfect inside stalking trip. He was a little bit in between horses on the backstretch and wanted to go, but Javier was able to keep him intact. And here's the key right here, Pete and Paul.
Yep. Yeah, well, I think Johnny was thinking about the closers coming on his outside and made a conscious decision to stay in the middle, maybe with the idea of floating them out. But now all of a sudden he looks to his left and Javier's by him. So no fault of Johnny. He won the Preakness by being in the middle, but Javier saving that ground makes a difference when you got to go 12 furlongs. And, right here, he's pulling away. No one, there's a lot of closes. Oh, this is going to get painful, Howard. Very quickly, it's going to get painful right about there. How many ways can that horse screw me?
Well, I have a big announcement to make, by the way, but I'll make it a little bit. Here's my question, Pete. I know you had you'd Angel Empire, right, Pete? I want to make sure I'm correct.
I mean, at this point, I actually didn't. I wound up not even betting the race itself because I was just live in a pick five, but I actually had a bunch of horses, so I was happy either way.
Here's my question for you, Pete, or for anyone out there: if you're fans of Tapit Trice, like Paul and I were, you can always second guess. It's not easy watching it live. I actually liked that Saez made an early move and just tried to sweep by the field because he was in the clear. Looking at it now again, the fact that he lost by second by an inch and came in third by only about 2 lengths. Do you think it would have been better for Saez to wait a little bit, let Angel of Empire go, save a little more ground, and then tip out sort of on the turn the way that, or late on the turn the way that Forte did in the Florida Derby? Or if you're a Tapit Trice fan, are you okay with this sort of early sweeping move?
I thought it was in the moment. I thought it was the right move, and I don't like Tapit Trice at all, really.
Right.
But right. I thought that was the shot. Just get out there and run and see what you can do. I don't know if he's makes the move that Forte did, where Irad was a little indecisive, sort of was inside, then decided to swing and then kick into gear. I think Forte's better at that. And I think Tapit Trice did what he had to do to win. I don't think he's as good as them in the end.
Yeah, and for me, Paul, watching it live, when I saw Tapit Trice was not able to clear these horses and get to here, I knew I was in trouble because I know he's got a long-winded run, but when you make that aggressive a run with so long into the race, the way he was going to win, Paul, was sweep by them, right, and just hold off whoever else. When he couldn't sweep by, I knew we were in trouble. And Forte just couldn't. Forte did not have trouble. Stop saying he had trouble. Some people on Twitter.
He didn't have trouble, but he didn't. No, but he didn't have an easy race in terms of trying to run down a horse who hugged the rail and had a perfect trip the whole way. That's it. Yeah, I think people got carried away with trouble, but he was a little indecisive. He was in between. He was stuck behind for a second. He never got his clear run, and you could tell maybe a little bit of his starch wasn't there either. But I thought you're not beating a horse who gets a perfect trip, who's a really good horse, with the trip that Forte got. That was the way I look at
Forte
it.
never steadied at any point.
I'm not saying steady.
When
I'm
they
just saying
quickened, he just couldn't quicken with them. I love the horse speed. He ran a huge race, better than I thought. He just couldn't quicken
he's not
with them,
phenomenal. I don't think of him as a turn horse either.
Yeah, clearly not.
He's not a turn horse, and that's what got to him a little bit in the Florida Derby. That's when Mage got away from him a little bit. But
yeah,
once he gets going, I mean, he kicked in, man, and he had to swing way wide and lose a lot of momentum. I thought he ran a bang up race. So the people who talk about his trip too much are out of hand. The people who say he sucks still are out of hand. So I think he's really good, and I think he's going to be pretty tough when we get to Saratoga and in between.
Paul, here's my big
I agree. I thought he ran huge. A little too huge for those of us who had the 3-2 exacta.
Paul,
and I know
had
plenty of people who had that.
Paul,
Plenty.
I had my top 3: Angel of Empire, Forte, and Archangelo, and I don't hit the exacta because I was actually broke by the time I got to this. Luckily, I had the pick 5 going, but I was so pissed because that 34 for $1. That's beautiful for those two. I mean, for those two horses, you should have had it, Paul. You should have had
45 for $1 with Tapit Trice, Pete.
I would have had it. Patrick had it several times. He boxed 2-3-8. I thought that was a good pick for him.
Yeah.
So that was just
Angel of Empire is just. I think he didn't have. He ran fine, and he just didn't have the same kick. He might be a little notch below as well. He might be sort of in the Tapit Trice with me, where he's sort of a notch below the top. Team
Bitcoin, great job, man.
Nice,
14
very nice.
Guys, here's my big announcement. It'll be scrolling across Fox News and CNN and CNBC, MSNBC in a few minutes here. I am not divorcing Tapit Trice, but we are presently separated. Look, guys, I'm not an idiot. He's just goofy. He expends so much energy in the first quarter, Pete, that really hurts him. And he's just not he's just not good enough right now for the best of the best. And I will be off him in any big races until he changes otherwise. I think there's a lot of talent there. He's just a big goofy knucklehead who just hasn't put it together. You just cannot continue, Pete, to lose lengths after lengths in the first quarter mile and have the need to get to the outside. He's just not professional. That's really that simple.
No. I mean, he's one of those where maybe you hope they bring him back, because if he matures next year, maybe he could be something where you do it that way. If you look at his PPs too, he hasn't finished ahead.
Thomas Espinosa.
He hasn't finished ahead of many good horses that in the end. So he's not. I mean, you saw Verifying got run down by Disarm. I know you like Disarm, Howard, but he's fine. He's fine, but Verifying is just okay. And I think that's what Tapit Trice, maybe he got a little inflated by running down horses that aren't on the level of some of these other ones.
Well, I think I first got. I'm not going to speak for Paul, but the first thing I got enamored with him is his stride. I mean,
I'm not. Yeah, early he looked fantastic. I mean, in those early races, yeah.
Now, Pete, you've not been a huge fan of his like all along. And you, I don't know who's right or wrong. I guess you could say you're right if you want to base it off of wins. No. You are correct, but he's talented. He's just goofy. You just can't trust him, and I'm off him for a while. I do think he will be in the Jim Dandy and the Travers, and depending if he gets more professional, it's not like anyone in this 3-0 crop, Paul, is world beaters. I mean, if he puts it together, there's no saying he can't be a factor, in the Travers, Penn Derby, maybe even a Breeders' Cup Classic if he really puts it together. But it's hard to bet this horse to win anymore, Paul.
Underneath, though, if you get double figures, if you get right, Paul, if you get double figures,
except you won't get double figures.
He won't be, no.
Well,
and by the way, there's a bet coming. You guys owe Mr. Jim Miller some money, and it's for a good reason.
Yeah,
you want to
absolutely.
People that don't know what we're talking about real quick, and then we'll end the show here.
Yeah, you got to show us the chart, Howard. Show the chart.
Show the chart.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just want to see how wrong I was.
Big Five Bride, Tapit Trice should not try turf, and he's not going to be turf.
We were never close, Paul. It was never close.
Howard, I would like to say, Howard, I already have a future bet on Tapit Trice in the 2024 Brooklyn at 2 miles.
That's actually a good bet. Go ahead there, Paul, while we're showing this.
All right, so Tapper Trice was 530 to 1, and Angel of Empire is 345 to 1. So I think Jim Miller won that bet.
Which is?
Oh, I didn't even know there was a dead heat in that race.
Yeah.
That's the first. Wow.
You didn't even know until now.
National Treasure ran not a bad sixth then. I mean, led for about, I don't know, what, a mile and an eighth, maybe?
I thought National Treasure at 5.71 was also hugely overbet. I mean,
no doubt. Oh, he couldn't win the race in a mile.
5 days before. It's not like we were just saying that after the fact. I mean, I would have been about as surprised as anyone if he'd won that race. Of any
no,
race
he couldn't win. I agree. But yes, Jim Miller will have to give us the details Thursday. I will happily make a donation to his charity in the name of Howard's separated equine.
Hey, but Rock Emperor ran like crap, so at least we have that on him.
We can
which was also predictable.
Yeah, well, he came on guns a-blazing for Rock Emperor, so we can at least stick that in his face if we need to.
Quick whip around. People, will start with you first. Final thoughts on the weekend, either just from a betting standpoint, pure racing standpoint, whatever.
Yeah, I'll just go real quick. Betting and racing combination where it's a weird dynamic because the races were great. We got to see the stars run great, but from a betting standpoint, it was super chalky. So do you want to, like, if you're looking at a weekend like that, are you more excited just to see great horses run great races? Or are you looking more from a betting standpoint, looking for a couple of upsets? It's hard because I know you said, hey, if it's a chalky weekend, I might not do as well, but you get to see Elite Power, Clariere, Cody's Wish, a horse like Arcangelo, he was a nice price, so you don't really count that one. But up to the mark, there were so many Caravel, so many chalks that wound up winning in Italian and pretty mischievous. It keeps goes on and on. But you got to see the best horses in their divisions run great races. So from a fan standpoint, that's awesome. Maybe from a betting standpoint, you have to figure out on some of these days you can make money, just tighten your picks. And if you bang I hit the next into Clariere, next didn't get bet too far down, but that was a very nice double. You look at that and say, screw all the other horses. I'm just going to bang this double or bang this cold exacta or something like that. And you could have a good betting weekend and enjoy the racing all in one.
Yeah. You can win when favorites win, but it's a little harder. You have to be a little bit more creative for sure. Paul,
well, I just
another
think,
incredible weekend for personal reasons, for a lot of reasons, just amazing.
Yeah, and for everyone though, I think we all spent the whole week looking at the AQI and the doom and gloomers saying they should cancel for the next 3 weeks, and I was going back and forth on Twitter with one guy, which is a mistake. But if anything happens, the PETA people are going to make a big deal out of it. No shit, they want to shut us down. Okay, so this is what we care what the PETA people think. 0, less than 0, less than 0. Screw them. They're all idiots. Okay. It was a good decision to cancel Thursday. It was politically the right thing to do. I can tell you weather-wise, having gotten in the area late afternoon Thursday, Howard, and I think you did as well, they certainly could have run Thursday, but it was a good decision. But didn't we get lucky with the weather on Friday and Saturday? Everything cleared up. And Saturday, I've been to many, many Belmonts. Saturday was the best weather Belmont you will ever get. It was just a terrific day. So, it's the ups and downs of horse racing, right? You have the lows early in the week, a beautiful day. And, we have to say it sadly, Mark Henning horse broke down in the last race on Saturday and then first race on Sunday. So, in horse racing, we can never enjoy ourselves for too long. But the day itself, and for me, the Cody's Wish stuff is well documented. And you were there, Howard, having this chance to spend some time with Kate Tweedy, Penny Chenery's daughter, and listening to our friend Dr. Mora passionately talk to her about the letter he wrote her mother and received. That was really emotional to me. It really was. That was a real highlight. So great weekend all around, minus the 2 equine tragedies at the end.
Yeah, it was an incredible weekend. Real quick, Heinz Bucks Sandcastle. Love the name. Welcome to the show. I don't think we've seen you 8 chalk all weekend for sure. Very briefly, guys, I'll talk about the horse racing and the personal, and then we'll wrap it up here. Horse race Friday was not a good betting day for me. Just a lot of chalk, and I was just didn't work out well for me. Saturday was a better day. Hit some good tries. A lot of the horse I tipped out on the Power Picks tip sheet ran very well. Just ran second. I had a lot of seconds, but that allowed me to hit some exactions and tries. Did hit a pick 5. So I lost overall on the weekend, but the experience was incredible. Didn't lose too much because of my Saturday. Paul, I want to say publicly how much a pleasure it was to meet some friends of yours that I had not met before. Especially, well, not especially really anyone, but Jamie and of course Jeff Moore, who really is the person responsible for bringing you and I together and you being on the show. So shout out to Jamie and Jeff. Of course, Bob Mullen's a great guy as well. Your crew was fantastic. We had a very interesting dinner, a great dinner, but a bit of an interesting one, as we could talk about later.
A late dinner, a very late dinner.
Yeah, but Don Peps was great, and then I hit King Umberto's on Saturday. I mean, what a big time. For you two who think I don't like Italian, I had Italian meals all weekend. It was awesome. So anyway, it was just a great weekend overall, Pete. I can't wait to meet you in person. People, people find it surprising, how many times you met Pete in person? 0. We have not met in person, and neither is Paul. So we are going to be meeting Pete in person at Saratoga during Whitney Week. I can't wait for that, Pete. Yep. It's going to be great. Awesome. We'll have a meet and greet. We got a big barbecue waiting for us and some great times in a month and a half. So that can't come any sooner enough. And Paul, anyone who saw us out there, thanks for saying hi to us. I know there are a few fans.
Jeff Amster, I met outside. Jeff Amster stopped me outside in the parking lot, and a very good, great guy. And talked about the Keeneland contest and talked about the weekend, and terrific.
And it was great. And again, final shout outs to Matt Cutera of Delphi Racing, who took care of Patrick and myself, and also Donnie Nelson of
Nelson,
who also took care of us as well. We're going to get Donnie on the show, by the way, Paul, before Saratoga. Good. Pete, final thought.
Just on air, happy 5th grade graduation to my son Jackson. That's why I didn't bet.
Hey!
I didn't bet on Friday. I unfortunately didn't bet on Friday when I actually had a couple nice picks, but I wound up putting nothing in because we were at graduation and a little, pool gathering and some lunch and stuff like that with his friends. So if he's watching, happy graduation, buddy.
Well, we love you, Jackson. Jackson Visco officially in middle school. Look out, world. Here comes Jackson Visco. Awesome, Pete. Congratulations to you and your wife and the family. That's a big accomplishment. All right, we're gonna wrap it up. Thanks for watching, everyone. We got a show tomorrow night. Wednesday night, Bettin and Boozin. Thursday night, our flagship show. Great Monmouth Stakes coming up this weekend. We'll tackle Monmouth as they prepare their preview Haskell Day coming up. For Pete Visco and Paul Halloran, happy birthday again, Paul. It's been your host, Howard Kravitz, episode 266 of the HHH Racing Podcast. Hope you had a great Belmont Festival Stakes weekend. We'll see you Thursday night on our flagship show. Wednesday night, Bettin and Boozin. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.